Well, I want to thank you for coming back to the 831 Living Your Best Life podcast. And this week I said I was going to talk about personal dare. It was the way my parents raised us. And I am so excited to tell you this because these are the four main things that Dad and Mom were consistent about all the time. And the way I'm approaching it this week is it's simply this. When I would talk to parents or the 1,013 kids that I worked with or the 600 plus families I've worked with or anybody that would come and ask me a question after I would speak somewhere, they typically would ask me the same questions. They would think it would be a new question, but it would be the same question. And this was always in the top three. How do you develop personal discipline? I'm not talking about the discipline for doing right and wrong. I'm talking about the discipline of getting in the habit of doing the right things. Well, the fact of the matter is, it's just that simple. You teach your child to do the right thing. I know we don't want to cause tension and trouble and trauma, and sometimes it boils over into arguments with our kids. I know I argued with my parents a lot, but it's a whole lot better to do it when they're young and develop the habit than to try to stare it down later in life. I'm Jungle Jim Hunter, and this is 831 Living Your Best Life podcast, and I am here to inspire you and empower you to live your best life, and you can download this on your favorite podcast provider or at junglejimhunter.com and subscribe, download the program, and click on like, and let us know how we can help you. So where did it start? Where did I learn personal discipline from my parents? When I was very young, my dad taught me what it meant to be a gatekeeper. Now, ski racing has gatekeepers, and they make sure you're not disqualified, but he used to say to me, son, I'm going to teach you how to be the gatekeeper for your eyes, your ears, your mouth, your nose, and your touch. In other words, you don't let anything go through your eyes that doesn't help you grow, or through your ears, or into your mouth, or up your nose. And you certainly don't touch anybody inappropriately in the sense of being violent or hurtful. And Dad and Mom's greatest investment in me and in my brothers and sisters was to spend time with us as children. I used to think that my parents were odd until I did my radio show, and for 5 years, I interviewed 490 Olympic and Paralympic athletes, and they all had intentional parents. I kept track of all of them and asked them questions like, how much screen time did you have? And in those days, for a lot of people, it was TV. It wasn't the screens you're thinking of. And here is the statistics. You earn your screen time once your training is done, your chores are done, your homework is done, extra preparation is complete, and you get it in 5-minute chunks, adding up to, and I hope you're ready for this, the average amount of time that all of my other Paralympic and Olympic buddies spent with screen time was 1 to 2 hours a week. Yep, you heard it right, 1 to 2 hours a week. Now, there's nothing wrong with having incredible technological inventions, but if they assault you and your child's emotional appetite without a gatekeeper, you diminish the ability to grow. Why? Because it draws out of us an emotional desire to have more. After all, how many of us binge watch something that we get hooked on? I think you get the point. Once it stirs the emotions in you, it opens a door that you will never get tired of, and it'll take a bigger and bigger door to shut it. Just statistically, so you know, in the 40s, the average parent spent time teaching growth and development 4 hours and 42 minutes. In the 50s, 4 hours. In the 60s, 2 hours and 22 minutes. In the 70s, 42 minutes. In the 80s, 22 minutes. And today, according to statistics, the average parent spends 8 seconds a day in growth, teaching, development of their children. Oh, and by the way, 8 seconds for themselves. It's no different. Wow. The average dad spends 1 year of time with his children in 18 years. The average mother, 4.5 years. We don't have a whole lot of time to spend teaching our children because we're so busy. So I want to encourage you to think about what you can learn from today's podcast that will help you live your best life and help your children and help you grow. Turn the technology off unless it is helping you grow. The time to start is from the moment they can put that first bite of food in their mouth. Now, how did my dad do it? How can I help you today? It was discipline, always discipline, that was part of everything that we did. We were always outside with my mom and dad. You could never be in the house. And they taught growth in every aspect of everything they did. For example, Dad would drive the tractor and the baler would be hooked up to it, and we would pick the bales and it would go onto a trailer and we would stack the bales. And then when we get to the yard, we'd have to restack them into the yard stack for the animals. But while we were doing it, Dad would say, let's create a fort. And we would have a place to play inside the bales when there was time to play. But it was after the work was done. He gave us an allowance. Well, the allowance was we got paid for the work that we did. You didn't ask my dad for money. He didn't give you any. You had to earn it. When it came to hockey, you worked, you budgeted how much it was going to cost, you paid for it yourself. You even had to pay him to drive you to the rink. Yeah, that's right. He had it all figured out, how much the registration license and insurance and gas would cost for him to drive you to the rink. Yeah, I know, my dad's weird. No TV, no radio. We didn't own such a thing. We had books, we had music, and we had reading. You think that's too tough? Well, I want to tell you this. The technology is the poorest choice of babysitting because there is no gatekeeper on the material. What's the application of this? Think, how can you shape your child's day and your day in this COVID-19 time so that you're growing all the time, or as much of the time as you possibly can? I want to give you one last example before I'm finished today. I was young and I wanted to learn how to play catch. I love playing catch. I love throwing the baseball. But as you know, when you learn how to play catch, what happens? Well, the child throws the ball and the father chases it and picks it up. And my dad was going to have none of that. So he drew home plate on the center of the big doors in the shop. And he put it right at the center doors, closed the doors, and said, I have to work inside. I've got equipment to work on. You throw the ball, and when you get 10 that hit the center home plate, I'll come out and play catch with you. It took a long time. And what's more is he didn't give me a baseball. He gave me a lacrosse ball. It's heavier, and it's rubber, and it bounces. Why? Because it would roll back towards me in the direction where I was standing. But of course, I did all the running all over the place because my throwing was erratic. But eventually, he all of a sudden opened the door and came out. And he said, let's play catch. You know why? Because he had been counting. Because the last thing he said to me was, when you hit the center 10 times in a row, I will come and play catch with you. You see, there's a big difference between a lacrosse ball hitting the center where it's solid wood and the hollow of the door where it just makes a thump sound. Well, why would he come then? Because he knew I could throw the ball relatively close to where he was all the time. And he wouldn't have to run. But more importantly, I had become fitter, stronger, and accurate. He worked, I worked. But the ball didn't go away, and he could just stand there and catch it. But it made me better. Now, if you can apply that kind of personal discipline to everything that your child does, they will learn their own development of habitual behavior that will work for them. It starts with what you do with your time and what you do with your actions. I read almost a book a day these days because I've read so much and studied so much because I want to learn. And it was a developed habit because we had time to read and grow and develop. How are you doing in this COVID-19 time? Investing in your child's growth that involves more of you and less screens and the creativity that helps them grow. Like the seeds that grow in the field, you will get stronger and they will get stronger if you work together. Our quote for the day: I will do it when I feel like doing it, or I will do it until I feel like doing it. One is an indecision and the other is self-discipline. I'm Jungle Jim Hunter, and you've been listening to 831 Living Your Best Life podcast. I hope I've inspired you and empowered you to develop personal discipline. Go to your favorite podcast provider and download this program and subscribe and click on like and let us know how we can help you. Next podcast, tomorrow, we'll talk about personal accountability. Thanks for listening.